The catch is that if you lose your job or you leave that job for some reason, you immediately owe those $30,000 back to yourself.
Ooh,
And
I hate to see
your
it.
kid, we hate to see it.
Hi, I'm Amber.
And hi, I'm Brenda, and this is the Minority Millennial Money Podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the Minority Millennial Money Podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about 401k plans. We just want everyone to ask themselves if they're saving for retirement. And I want to ask you first, Amber.
Yes, definitely. I think I first, realized that I needed to start saving for retirement probably back in 2016. I had never really honestly thought about it. And someone brought it to my attention, basically what money are you going to have? And I, just figured I would work forever. But after, over 6 years of practice now, definitely not. Definitely won't be working forever. So since then, I've been saving, and I've increased my retirement savings every year. How about you?
Yeah, I think the first time I learned about what a 401k really is was about 5 years ago. I was 25 and I realized that all I had done when I got my full-time job was say, okay, I'll contribute the match. And I honestly didn't even know what the match was. So, what does that mean when your employer says that you're going to get a 3% match?
Right. So basically what that means is 3% of your income, they will match up to that amount if you put that amount in. So if you put in 1% of your income into the 401k, they will put 1%. If you put 2%, they'll put 2%. So basically, if you don't put 3%, you're losing out on that free money, which is one of the benefits of working there is getting that money. So you're basically
Right.
turning down income, in my opinion.
Right. And what if I want to put in 8% because I'm a really aggressive saver?
I mean, you still get the 3% match. And then you
Okay.
can obviously be contributing additional. Although, probably you want to contribute $19,500 since that's the contribution, the maximum contribution anyway.
Okay, so where did you get that number from?
So the maximum contribution that a person can do is $19,500, and that's the amount that's tax deductible. So essentially, you're contributing pre-tax dollars to the 401k up to $19,500. So it means you're paying less in taxes. So the government so if you make, $100,000 a year, and you contribute $19,500. Now I'm not very good at math. 80 something.
You only get taxed
yeah.
on 80,500.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So actually, the more money I put in it, up to $19,500 per year, the less money I have to pay in taxes, right?
Yes.
I will say that when you withdraw the money in your retirement, which is at a certain age, you're not allowed to pull that money out without a penalty before a certain age. I believe it's 59 and a half years old. When you withdraw that money, you will pay taxes on it then.
Yep.
So Uncle Sam's going to get your money eventually. But the good part about it is that you can defer taxes in the higher income earning years of your life.
Right. Because by the time you retire, you're not working. So your tax, what the percentage that you're going to be taxed on should be lower.
Should be. Right. Exactly. So why is it called a 401k?
I don't know, actually. Why is it called a 401k?
It's actually the name of the IRS code.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's the name of the code in the IRS giant handbook of tax code. And it's the most popular type of plan, which is why we chose to talk about this one. There are 457Bs and 403Bs, and people in particular sectors like the military or educators
Government.
who work for a university, right? State institutions have different types of retirement plans, which maybe another day we can do an episode on all the different types.
Mhm.
But what do you think is like some practical things that people can do right now if they're not sure what's going on with their own 401k?
Well, first of all, I think you need to, after you start putting money into a 401k, you need to see what the money is going into. Because I think a lot of people think that a 401k is just a savings
Mm.
account, and it's not. It's actually your money is invested in stocks and bonds. So if you have picked the wrong stocks and bonds in that 401k, your money's not going to grow. So that's really key that you speak to whoever the compensation person is at your job, or whoever knows about the 401ks. You need to do research into what your money is going into, because there are a lot of people that contribute the money and then their interest rate is like 1 or 2% or something on their 401ks. So I was
Or your employer has default mutual funds that they put it into. A lot of employers will put it into target date funds, which are funds that say I'm 25 when I open the account and I plan to retire when I'm 65. So in 40 years, that's 2061. So they'll have like a 2061 target date fund,
Mhm.
which means that they put a certain amount of your money in stocks because you're so far out from retirement that you can afford to have more money in stocks and less in bonds. And we'll talk more about what those mean. But most employers will have some kind of default fund that they're putting your money into unless you choose otherwise. And they always give you the opportunity to change what your money is being contributed towards. So you have the power to make your money work harder for you if you educate yourself on what it's being invested in.
What do you think about those target date funds? Because that's a good point.
I personally, before I knew any better, I had mine in a target date fund that was super far out because I figured the further out it is, the more aggressive it is because
Aggressive.
more of my money's in stocks. But once I learned about like index funds, ETFs, and other mutual funds that I could put my money into, I did away with the target date fund because I knew better. But I would say, like, if you don't feel like doing the research, then just put it in a target date fund because it has allocations for a person with about a moderate risk tolerance. And we're bringing up a lot of new terms, I think, but risk tolerance just means like, how willing are you to let that money lose value in the short term for possibly a longer term gain?
Yes. So a couple things. I totally agree with you on the target date thing. I did the exact same thing. I figured, oh, this is like it'll invest it for me. But if you're young, in your 20s or 30s, oh my God, please do not put it in a target date fund. Please be aggressive, because yes, it's gonna dip right now when you're first starting to put money in, but over time, your percentage will grow. So I was telling Brenda earlier that, I did some research and the average stock market return is 10%. But last year, my 401k, the performance was 19%. So I got a 19% interest rate on the money I put into my 401k last year. And Brenda,
Which
you
is
said,
to say that if you had 100,000 in that account on January 1st, 2020, and you did not contribute another dollar to that account, then on January 1st, 2021, you had $119,000,
exactly.
right?
So that's a high return. So you definitely want to go aggressive and do the research and put the work in, because that's a lot of money to leave on the table.
Right.
$19,000 in 1 year, that can make or break somebody's income.
Right. And now those $19,000 are going to work for you for the next 30 years till you retire. Well, you're going to retire in 20, but until you retire, that's money that now is also growing more money. So that's the power of compound interest, right? That whatever grows more and that grows more. And that's how your 401k, by the time you're retirement age, 59 and a half is the time that you can withdraw those contributions without a penalty, then it will have grown exponentially, literally.
Yes, I think I did some numbers earlier, and it was like if you started at 30 years old, putting $19,500 into your retirement account every single year, by the time you reached age 65, assuming that you did a stock market performance of 10%, you would have over $5 million. So if you're interested in being a multimillionaire in retirement, it is imperative that you contribute the max of your 401k. And now, disclaimer here, obviously there are people out there who may be listening who cannot afford to give up $20,000 of their income. So we understand that. Certainly if you're living in poverty, in a poverty situation, this is not for you. But if you are in a position where you can contribute to your 401k, you could do nothing else but contribute to your 401k, and you would be a multimillionaire in retirement. So
right. And some employers have plans where you can tick a box and they automatically increase your contribution by 1% every year. So say like today, you can only contribute the match. My employer gives a 5% match and I want to get all of the match. So I only contribute 5%. But in 6 months, maybe I paid off a little bit of my debt, and that $100 payment, I can afford to have it taken out of my paycheck now. So I'm going to go another 1% on my 401k. And, if every 6 months you set yourself out to increase by 1%, within a couple years, you could be at 10%, right? And it's automatic savings and investment into that plan. But Amber, what would I do if I was at a job for 6 years and then I apply to a different job and I leave that company?
Right. So you can roll over your 401k to your new job. So your 401k never goes away. I think, though, I will say that's a really good point. A lot of people will pull out their 401k when they leave a job, and they'll spend that money instead of rolling it over into the new 401k. And that is not good.
So there is a huge penalty. Speaking of that, because I shared this in the first episode about how this advisor at a very large bank that I went to had told me to cash out a small 401k balance that I had. But I read some meme, financial education that like every $1,000 that you contribute now in 30 years can be $20,000, right? So I think about those $3,500 and how that could have been like $70,000 in my retirement. And I'm still angry at myself and that man for telling me to do that. But don't cash out 401ks. You pay a huge penalty and you pay taxes on it.
I agree.
You're kicking yourself and your future self, right? You're hurting your future self. And I really like to think about saving for retirement as present Brenda taking care of future Brenda, because future Brenda is going to face ageism in the workplace, right? When you're 55, 60, you're not going to be able to go for those jobs that are given to 30-year-olds, right? Unless you're just like a super expert in your field and everybody wants you, which those are rare, right? I want to be able to take care of myself even as young as 45, if that's when I choose to leave the workforce in a full-time capacity. I think about how it hurts to maybe contribute that much right now, but then I think my future self will be so thankful.
But the key here, though, is that you can't take those funds out until you're 65. So even
you're 59 and a half.
59 and a half. So if you decide to retire earlier, then you're going to have to live off your brokerage account or whatever other money you have until those funds begin. So you'll have, 10 years-ish of money that you'd have to save for yourself aside from your 401k if you want to retire early.
Right. What is a brokerage account, since you brought it up?
Sure. So a brokerage account is basically just an account where you invest. It's an investment account. It's basically the account that you would set up if you want to invest in the stock market yourself. like stocks and bonds and things like that.
Okay. And I have to have some kind of certification or something to get a brokerage account?
No, anybody can get a brokerage account.
Okay.
So I always tell people, if you don't have enough money where you can get an advisor, I'd suggest there's a bunch of banks out there, apps. I used to do Betterment, which is like a robo investor. So basically you download the app and you put money into it and you say, I want to be aggressive or moderate or whatever, and it'll invest based on what the computer system thinks is like the best stocks and bonds. And I think what do you have, Brenda?
I use M1 Finance,
Mm.
and I have both an Roth IRA and a taxable brokerage account. And the reason I say taxable is just because when you do your taxes, you do have to report the amount of money that your brokerage account made. So if I had $10,000 in that account and I had a 10% gain, then I made $1,000 and I will have to pay taxes on those $1,000. So yeah.
Which is different from
So
the 401k because the money that grows in there is not taxable. You don't have to report it to the IRS.
right. Yeah, I use M1 Finance, and the great thing about that app, and they have actually featured me as one of their investors if you want to look up my name and M1 Finance on Google. But I really like it because it's super user friendly and it will tell you exactly what this group of stocks are, like what the companies are about. Like I have a pie, so you have a big pie and pieces of your pie are allocated to different types of stocks and bonds. And so I have like a responsible investing slice of my pie. So these are companies that are like eco-friendly, or they're for clean energy, or they're for saving the environment. And then I have like a very aggressive pie, like that contributes to companies that maybe are heavily on the rise, right? But they also have huge potential to fail. And then I could lose money. But at this point in my life, I can afford to lose a little money because in the long run, it steadily goes up.
Right. So that's another reason why you should not cash out your investments or your 401k, because the market is volatile, right? So let's say we're on a downturn. You take your money out, you've lost money and it's done. Versus you keep it in, it goes back up. So it's really imperative that when you're investing and when you're putting money in retirement, you're not planning to use that money for years. So that means if
decades.
Exact decades, literally. If you want to make a big purchase or go on a trip or do whatever, those are not the funds to use. So beware of that for sure.
What do you think about 401k loans?
Don't do it, please. I just feel like if you just put in a savings account, just get a high yield savings account and you'll get 2% and interest. And I mean, that'll be that. Like, why put it in the market at all?
Right. And just to clarify, a 401k loan is when, say, you have $100,000 in your 401k, but you need to do some home remodeling, but you don't have the money up front. And so you want to take 30,000 out to remodel your kitchen. And you take that loan and you pay it yourself back. And that's what people are always like, well, I'm just borrowing from myself. Well, the catch is that if you lose your job or you leave that job for some reason, you immediately owe those $30,000 back to yourself.
Ooh.
And
I hate to see it.
We hate to see it. Your kitchen may look really nice, but now you're going to have to go get a probably higher interest loan to pay yourself back. And now you're paying the bank. So as a general rule, cashing out 401ks and taking 401k loans are big no-nos if you want that money to grow. Would you say that's right?
Agreed.
Okay. I think that pretty much wraps it up for 401ks. I think this opened up some conversation about other types of retirement accounts that we'll cover in the future. But y'all email us at amber@mmmoney.org or brenda@mmmoney.org. We're also on Instagram as mmmoneypod on Twitter and Minority Millennial Money on Instagram.
Follow us.
Yes, follow us. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye.